All right, let's try another one. I had to split this up into two videos just so you know. So it's the same process. We're gonna factor we're gonna factor out this binomial here. So 4x to the fourth plus 24x cubed. All right. So let's look for the GCF of each of our terms. So we need to find the GCF of the coefficients first. So we need, let me get this tool here. Come on now. Come on. Let's do it. There we go. And we'll go red. So we need to find the GCF of our 4 and our 24. So if you are thinking of what it's going to be, if you haven't got it figured out yet, all right, remember we just do 4 divided by all the terms we can divide 4 by, or all the numbers we can divide 4 by, and then same with 24 and figure out which number is the biggest and what they have in common. So the GCF of these coefficients is 4. And now we need to find the GCF of our variables. So remember the little trick we just used? X to the fourth, x to the third. Little trick from the previous video. Whichever one is smaller is our GCF. So which one's smaller, x to the fourth or x to the third? X to the third has the smaller exponent. So that's going to be our GCF of our variables. So we've got 4x to the third is our GCF. So I'm just going to rewrite our original problem right here. 4x to the fourth plus 24x to the third. All right. So remember, we are undoing the distributive property. Our GCF that we just came up with, we're going to put right here. 4x to the third. So what we need to figure out is 4x to the third times something is going to give me my original monomial right there. That's supposed to be an arrow. So 4x to the third times what will give me 4x to the fourth. All right, so 4 times what equals 4? Well, that's a 1. 4 times 1 equals 4. We don't need to write the 1 inside our parentheses there, okay? We don't need to write, we don't need to write a 1 there because 4 times 1 is 4. All right, I don't need to write that 1, so we're not going to write that 1. We're just going to leave it. So now we're going to figure x to the third times what equals x to the fourth? And the answer is just x, okay? So if I did the distributive property, 4x to the third times x is going to give me 4x to the fourth. So we're undoing it. We're going backwards. We found the GCF of 4x to the third. Put that right there. All right, so that means inside our parentheses, we're going to have an x plus, got to figure out what goes here now. So what do I multiply this space by to, what do I multiply 4x to the third by in this space to get back up to 24x to the third? Okay, so 4x to the third times something right here is going to give me 24x to the third. So 4 times what equals 24? Well, the answer there is 6. Okay, so 4x to the third, 4 times 6 is 24. Good. What about x to the third times what equals x to the third? Well, since they're already there, they already have an x to the third, and they're both x to the thirds. That's all we have to do, put here is a 6. So 4x to the third times x plus 6 is our answer here. Okay, and just to show you, I can't remember if I showed you on the previous video, just to check your work, you could just use that distributive property again, just to be safe, just to check it. So we'll do that. So what is 4x to the third times x? That is 4x to the fourth. And what's 4x to the third times 6? That is 24x to the third. These match up. All right, so we're good. So that way we know that this right there is our answer. Okay, let's do one more. Let's see if I can think of one. Got one more here. How about 6? Let's do a different variable just for fun. 6y to the 5th. Sure, why not? plus, we'll go minus. About 9y to the second. That's supposed to be a 2. There we go. All right, we got to find the GCF first of the 6 and the 9. So what can I divide both of those by? All right, we're going to do a little bit quicker. So what's the GCF of the 9 and the y? Excuse me, the 6 and the 9. What's the GCF of the 6 and the GCF of the 9? You're right, it's 3. Okay, so we put our 3 there. And what about the GCF of the y to the 5th and y to the 2nd? Well, which one's smaller, y to the 5th or y to the 2nd? Y to the 2nd is smaller. So our GCF of those two terms, those two monomials, is 3y to the 2nd. All right, now we got to put, since we're undoing the distributive property here, put the minus there. What do I multiply 3y to the 2nd by to get 6y to the 5th? 3 times what equals 6? That answer is 2. And then y to the 2nd times what equals y to the 5th? Well, this one has 5 exponents. This one has 2, so we need 3 more. There we go. And that's our first term. Now we got to do our second term. 3y squared times what equals 9y squared? 3 times what equals 9? That's 3. And since this has y squared already and this one has y squared, well, all we need is the 3. So our final answer for this one is 3y squared times 2y cubed minus 3. That's our answer. Now we got to put this to use. So in one of the previous videos you've watched, okay, what they did was, all right, can you tell me that what the answer is here? If when we're solving, oops, there we go. I had it. When we're solving 2x times x plus 3 equals 0. What we're doing was we were trying to figure out what does this x value right here need to be in order for our answer to be 0, and what does our x value right here need to be in order for our answer to be 0. So what they did, just a quick reminder, 2x equals 0, solve that equation. X plus 3 equals 0, solve that equation. This x equals 0. Oops. Minus 3 on both sides. This x equals negative 3. All right, so here's our answers. Remember, the word in our vocab and the word that was used in our previous video was the roots. So these are the roots. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine this process that I just showed you here that you've learned already with this process, the undoing. So let me come up with an example here. Let's go 3x squared plus 15x equals 0. So what we need to do is we have got to factor out using the GCF this right here. We're going to come back to this in just a bit, but we're going to factor that binomial first. So what's the GCF of 3x squared plus 15x? All right, so the GCF of the 3 and the 15, switch it here, is a 3. X squared and x, which one's smaller? The x is smaller, so 3x is our GCF of this binomial. Go parentheses. Now, 3x times what equals 3x squared? So that needs to be an x there. Plus 3x times what equals 15x? 3x times 5 equals 15x. So we've got 3x times x plus 5, factored out. Now we're going to bring down this equals 0, and we're going to solve just like we did right there. So following those steps, oops, dropped my pencil. Following those steps, we set 3x equal to 0. All right, we set x plus 5 equal to 0, and we solve. Divide by 3, this x equals 0. Subtract 5, this x equals negative 5. There we go. So we're just putting those two processes together. All right, and we'll do one more just so you can see it. Let's try maybe not. Come on now. There we go. Let's try 2x squared plus 5x equals 0. All right, this one's might be a little trickier just because of the GCF of our coefficients. So just take a look at your coefficients. What's the GCF of the 2 and the 5? If they don't have one, the answer is going to be 1. So this one, they don't really have GCF. Well, they do have GCF. It's 1, but so you don't have to write the 1. So what about the GCF of the x and the x squared? Smaller one's x. So that means our GCF of these two, the only thing they have in common is an x. All right, so parentheses here, put our plus, x times something equals 2x squared. What's going to go inside here? The answer is going to be 2x, okay? X times something equals 5x. What's going to be there? The answer is 5 equals 0. All right, so x times 2x plus 5 equals 0. This one, all I have is an x. X equals 0. We're done. This is our first answer. All right, this one, 2x plus 5 equals 0. Got two steps here. We got to subtract 5. 2x equals negative 5. Divide by 2. All right, so our x is negative 5 over, oh gosh, the advertisement is in the way. Negative 5 over 2 is our answer. Okay, so our roots in this situation are 0 and negative